If we had made this video even just a few years ago, you, dear viewer, would have probably jumped through the screen and quite justifiably punched me right in my perfectly proportioned nose. But as the weeks, months, and years have gone by, there's something that fans and one-time critics of Michael Cole are coming to accept. Cole's good. Like, really, really good. Once reviled for a television persona that was a turn-off for many, Michael Cole these days is getting the plaudits he deserves while doing some of the best work of his long and distinguished career. It's been a tough road at times getting to that point, but Cole has earned the adulation of his peers, punters, and pricks like me. In fact, I consider myself a certified coal miner, and I want the wrestling world to appreciate the man just as much as I do. So, can I have your attention, please? Because I'm Adam Pacitti from Cultaholic Wrestling, and this is my love letter to Michael Cole. Michael Cole was born Sean Michael Coulthard in Syracuse, New York on December 8, 1966. A high achiever from an early age, he graduated from Syracuse University's Newhouse School of Communications, one of the most prestigious journalism programs in the United States, with a BA in broadcast journalism all the way back in 1988. As a journalist for CBS Radio, Cole covered some major events in American history, including 3 presidential campaigns, the Waco Siege, the Yugoslavian Civil War, and the Oklahoma City bombing, being stationed everywhere from Mexico City to Sarajevo over the course of almost a decade. Appropriate training for a career in sports entertainment, then. While working at CBS Radio in the 80s, Cole became friends with Todd Pettingill, then working as a DJ, but who would go on to achieve greater fame as WWE's roving reporter during the New Generation era. When Pettingill decided to step away from the company following SummerSlam 1997, he recommended Cole, who he'd kept contact with over the years, as his replacement. Cole certainly fit the profile and, as a bonus, was a massive lifelong fan of the business, meaning he wouldn't have to be trained, so to speak. Michael Cole made his on-screen WWE debut on the June 30th, 1997 episode of Monday Night Raw, interviewing the Legion of Doom backstage. As well as taking over Pettingill's post and doing stints hosting shows like Livewire and Shotgun Saturday Night, Cole found himself in the announce booth toward the end of the year, forming a 3-man team with lead announcer Jim Ross and Kevin Kelly for the first hour of Raw. He was replaced by Jerry the King Lawler in mid-1998, but would have to step back in at the end of the year to replace JR, who went home after suffering another bout of Bell's palsy during the Capital Carnage pay-per-view. Cole did the best he could, yet the shadow of the far more experienced and familiar Ross loomed large, and clearly he wasn't close to that level. Few were upset about seeing the return of the man in the black cowboy hat at WrestleMania 15. Cole wouldn't have to wait too long to get another opportunity on commentary, however, because that summer he was chosen to be the play-by-play guy for the new SmackDown show, with Lawler providing color. It was on the blue brand that Cole really began to get better at his craft and forge his own identity as an on-air personality, particularly when Lawler quit WWE and was replaced by Taz, who Cole had worked with on Sunday Night's Heat. While JR and the King remained the standard over on the flagship, Cole and Taz became key to SmackDown distinguishing itself from its red counterpart during the brand split era. Cole and Taz steadily improved as a duo and developed a great rapport, particularly when being produced by Paul Heyman, who was instrumental in the creative process during the vaunted SmackDown 6 era of the show. Heyman worked tirelessly with his announcers in post-production sessions and helped them become much, much better at their jobs. So good, in fact, that WWE opted to have Cole and Taz call the SummerSlam main event between The Rock and Brock Lesnar, which was a surprising decision at the time. For the next 4 years, Michael Cole and Taz were constant on SmackDown and called some major matches and memorable moments on both television and pay-per-view. When Taz was transplanted to the rebooted ECW in the summer of 2006, Cole was partnered with another former wrestler with the gift of the gab, the recently retired John Bradshaw Layfield. The dynamic was much different with the tall Texan, but Cole, demonstrating his professionalism and adaptability, certainly made it work. Making it work is what Cole did when he was called upon sporadically to get involved directly in storylines, like when he had a mud hole stomped in him by a villainous Steve Austin, or was, cornered backstage by Heidenreich. It's what he did when JBL left and was replaced by Jonathan Coachman, and it's what he did again when Coachman was replaced by Mick Foley. And it's something he did with a smile on his face, all the while Vince McMahon was often yelling and screaming in his ear. The then WWE chairman's legendary micromanaging of his announcers had played a part in Taz deciding to leave the company, and was also a major factor in Foley calling time on his short-lived spell at the desk. What, you don't like a deranged billionaire venting and calling you a moron while you're trying to do your job in front of millions of people? Snowflakes. Cole endured, and after 9 years of working on SmackDown, he was traded to Raw in the 2008 draft, much to the chagrin of Jim Ross, who was not clued in beforehand about going the other way. McMahon and his production chief, Kevin Dunn, had been trying to replace Ross, who they felt was too old and southern, for years, at one point going so far as to try and poach UFC's Mike Goldberg for the role. But it was Cole, as experienced, hard-working, and reliable as anyone on the WWE payroll, who was entrusted to be the new voice of WWE. Michael Cole had always been a babyface announcer during his WWE career. He cheered on the good guys and condemned the baddies like clockwork. But in 2010, his mood began to shift, something which really started to become apparent while he was providing commentary for the first season of NXT The Game Show. This newfound attitude manifested itself with Cole openly mocking the supposedly undersized vegan indie darling Daniel Bryan while he sang the praises of The Miz, a fellow company man who had been molded by the WWE system. Cole was quite clearly acting as the avatar for his billionaire boss, throwing himself into the role with zeal and trolling the hardcore fans who saw him as nothing but a puppet for the publicly traded entity. Adding to the annoyance, Cole also acted as the spokesman for the anonymous Raw general manager around this time. This wasn't vintage Michael Cole. This was something different, and it felt like it would take some getting used to. Some fans would never get used to it, of course, with Cole becoming more and more overbearing as time went on, until eventually he became involved in a storyline with broadcast colleague Jerry Lawler after losing the King the WWE title in his TLC match with Cole's beloved Miz. Cole, by now somehow the most reviled and heavily pushed heel on the WWE roster, was gearing for a WrestleMania showdown with Lawler. The road to the showcase of the Immortals would certainly be eventful. Everyone remembers and laments the build-up for the infamous moments of Cole antagonizing Lawler, which included him mocking the death of Lawler's mother and bringing back his son Brian Christopher, aka Grandmaster Sexay, to tell him what a horrible father he had been. Michael, who would soon shut himself off from everybody in a custom-made plexiglass cube he dubbed the Coal Mine, was insufferable in these segments and on commentary, and people hated him for it, which was kind of the point, right? Cole was so smarmy and took things so far that he wanted to see the King pile drive his head through the mat on the grandest stage, but regrettably the match itself was a total washout, an overlong mess that ranks among the very worst in WrestleMania history. Cole, who looked wonderfully absurd in that orange singlet and headgear, won the match thanks to the anonymous Raw GM reversing the decision, and then a tag team country whipping match too at Extreme Rules, but finally received his comeuppance proper when he was forced to kiss Jerry Lawler's foot at Over the Limit, after Jim Ross had been forced to kiss Cole's, of course. He continued to play the wind-up on television, competing sporadically and even entering the 2012 Royal Rumble match as a surprise, as his dickhead routine became just that. Routine. After over 2 years of watching and just about tolerating the over-the-top heel character Michael Cole portrayed, fans got to see Shawn Michael Coulthard, the human being, on the September 10th, 2012 episode of Monday Night Raw. That was the night Jerry the King Lawler, 10 minutes after wrestling in a tag match, suffered a cardiac arrest and collapsed in his seat next to Cole. As Jerry was rushed to the hospital or local medical facility, it was up to Cole, clearly shaken and at times on the verge of tears, to provide the audience with updates on the condition of his colleague and friend as the matches and angles played out sans commentary. Cole and WWE were rightly praised for the way in which he handled this unenviable and very serious situation, and Cole automatically turned back into being a babyface, something that was cemented when he hugged Lawler in the middle of the ring when the WWE Hall of Famer returned to Raw 2 months later. With the departure of Ross and the phasing out of Lawler, Michael Cole over the next several years was able to establish himself as the true voice of WWE. And while everyone quotes some of JR's famous calls, you have to give credit for Cole coming up with the right turn of phrase at the right moment. A miracle on Bourbon Street. Seth Rollins with the heist of the century. The streak is over. These calls, and others like them, are now part of the fabric of WWE history and did much to add to the gravitas of what was happening in the ring at the time. From the mid-2010s, Michael Cole was the constant, and while he certainly had his critics, nobody questioned his professionalism or his commitment to the cause. In fact, Cole has only missed 3 shows in over a quarter of a century as an announcer, at the expense of other obligations, and even seeing his own kids grow up. The man has put the time in and deserves to be recognized for that. He also deserves to be having as much fun as he has been having with Pat McAfee since the two formed their winning partnership in April of 2021. Of all of Cole's various broadcast partners over the years, and there are plenty of them, McAfee is the one that he has the most abundant and infectious chemistry with. You can see it clearly on both of their faces, and Cole himself has said that working with the ex-NFL punter is the highlight of his week. And I believe him. It's a highlight for fans too, and it was a genuine disappointment when they were broken up while Pat went off to do ESPN's College Game Day. It also goes without saying that Cole's work has improved even more since the ousting of Vince McMahon. With the so-called genetic jackhammer no longer stationed in the gorilla position, ready to chastise or bark orders at Cole at will, he has been free to express himself uninhibitedly. His animated reactions caught by WWE's cameras, compiled and then replayed over and over again, and they are a joy to watch. When Cole is left to his own devices and not produced 9 ways from Sunday, he is simply brilliant. He's still entertaining, and though he typically sticks to naming moves and keeping fans abreast of storyline developments, he does still place himself into the thick of it, albeit less obnoxiously than he did when he was a full-time heel. He's had playful feuds with Bayley, Top Dollar, and Dominic Mysterio in the last few years, but he's helping to get them over, and these subplots are not detracting from Cole's main job as WWE's lead announcer, a job that he will no doubt be entrusted with until somebody is ready to have the torch passed to them, and who knows when that will be. Fans at one point probably couldn't wait for the day that Michael Cole left the WWE announce table, but something tells me that those same fans will likely feel pretty sad when that day inevitably comes. Because while good old JR might have been more quotable, by God, and Bobby the Brain Heenan had a sharper wit, Michael Cole's consistency, longevity, versatility, and professionalism make him, for my money, the best WWE commentator ever. Thank you, Michael.